Alright, so you're trying to decide between the Bose QuietComfort Ultra and the Sony WH-1000XM5, which I'll just call the XM5. Hi, my name is Norb, and this is my comparison. And if you have any questions after watching this, hit me up in the comments or watch my deep dives, which I'll link to at the end of the video. First point of comparison, of course, is going to be the cost. The QuietComfort Ultra retails for $429 in the US, although it often goes on sale for $379 and sometimes as low as $329. The XM5, on the other hand, sells for $399, although I've seen it below $300. You'll usually be able to find the XM5 for much cheaper if you shop around. By the way, I've added product links in the description which you can use to compare prices. Using those also helps the channel out at no cost to you. Alright, so both also come with a nice case, and both come with charging and audio cables. The QuietComfort Ultra comes with a very compact case that makes it perfect for travel, and it has a pouch inside for cables. It's a leather-like material which got a little bit stained in my bag a little while back, but this thing has traveled a lot with me, so it's still in really good shape. The XM5's case, on the other hand, is nice. It has a sloping angle thing and it actually squishes down so you can store it when you're actually using the headphones. Realistically, if anything impacts your buying decision here, it's going to be whether you want a compact, travel-friendly case or one with a little bit more storage room. For example, you may be able to have an extra charger in there. Moving on to battery life. The QuietComfort Ultra offers up to 24 hours of music with a full 3-hour charge. Sony advertises up to 30 hours of battery life, but if you turn on all the fancy features, you may get about half that. Finally, they both have a quick charge. 2.5 hours of music with 15 minutes of charging with the QC Ultra versus 3 hours of music with 3 minutes of charging with the XM5. So I'm giving this to Sony mostly because of the quick charge. Now let's take a look at the user interface and design. The XM5 feels delicate, but it's actually a pretty durable design. After 2 years and a lot of trips, mine are still in pretty great shape, although there's a lot of smudges from fingerprints and a couple of scratches. They are super light, with a soft touch plastic made from recycled car soundproofing material, which does feel pretty good in the hand. The ear pads and headband are made out of a vegan leatherette that feels kind of rubbery, but it's still nice. The ear pads are also replaceable, though the round headband design is a little bit of an odd choice, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Most of the controls are actually on the right ear cup. It's a touchpad there, but there's also a couple of buttons that you can use for noise canceling, powering, and launching apps like Spotify. It has on-head detection, which pauses and starts the music when you take them off or put them on, and that works perfectly. It also includes a 3.5mm audio jack and a USB-C port for charging. The QuietComfort Ultra has two buttons, one for power and pairing, and the other for play controls, answering calls, and switching between noise canceling modes. There's also a touch bar on the side for volume control and quick actions, which you can set up using the app. These also have on-ear detection that will stop and start music when you take them off and put it back on, although Bose also lets you automatically answer calls when you put them on. Build-wise, the Ultra is plastic with aluminum and protein leather for the ear pads, which are replaceable, and under the headband. The fact that they fold is also a big bonus for me because it makes them a lot more compact when traveling. Finally, it has a 2.5mm audio jack and a USB-C port for charging. Moving on to the app, this is where you can control all the features for both of them. Bose's app is a lot simpler, but Sony's Sound Connect app was recently updated and improved, and it also highlights everything that the XM5 can really do. Sony has more than just one app, but the Sound Connect app is the only one you absolutely need. The Sound Connect app shows off all of the XM5's features. It's a lot of stuff. The XM5 is second to no one when it comes to smart features. Sony has gone all out when it comes to loading the XM5 with usability features, although it's almost to the point of overload. So, two very different scores here. For build and design, I'm giving this to the QuietComfort Ultra. It just looks great and it feels great, although the XM5 does have some great features like recyclability. For the overall features and usability, I'm calling this a tie between the two. Yeah, if you dig into the XM5, you can do way more, and if you're a power user, you will love it. But for most people, it's just too much. Bose does what most people need with just enough flexibility. This was one of the few places where I think there's a clear difference between the audiences that these are going for. Do you want a million features to tweak and play with? If so, the XM5 is for you. If not, then both will be fine because Sony's app can also work just as well for somebody who wants something simpler, but the QuietComfort Ultra will be simpler overall, period. Moving on to comfort. Starting with the XM5, it's lightweight at 250 grams or 8.8 ounces, so it doesn't press down very much on your head and it doesn't squeeze too hard. The fit is pretty nice. It's not too tight and not too loose. The ear pads are a little bit thin, but they work fine for me even with glasses on. I've heard complaints about the ear heat, but I haven't noticed that. The ear cups are a little cramped because the speakers are flat, And the main issue for me is actually the round headband. It can create a pressure spot right here up top after long use, though it does soften over time. Overall, the XM5 is comfortable, but it's not perfect. Now, the QuietComfort Ultra is just as light, 253 grams or 8.9 ounces. The fit is a little bit more relaxed, but it's still secure. Like the XM5, it doesn't trap much heat, and I did find the XM5 more comfortable with glasses. As someone with big ears, I do love the space the QuietComfort Ultra gives inside the ear cups. The angle speakers inside keep my ears from rubbing against the cloth, and the headband is wide enough so that there's no pressure points really here. Also, it's very soft. Between the two, I prefer the QuietComfort Ultra for comfort, but both are fine for long listening sessions. Now, noise canceling is a major area of competition between these two, and for good reason. They are both fantastic, even if each has some flaws. I'll touch a bit on the ambient sound in aware mode also. As far as that goes, the QuietComfort Ultra sounds more natural than the XM5. They both reject over noise as well, but on the whole, I like the QuietComfort better. As for noise canceling, both have a lot in common. Both let you use a slider to let you adjust the level of the noise canceling or environmental noise pass-through. They also both have a wind reduction mode, which worked well on both. They both also use adaptive noise canceling, but that's where the similarities end. Let me start with the XM5. In short, they are fantastic and I love them, although it has what some consider a pretty major flaw. The XM5 are arguably the quietest headphones I've used. The plastic used on these comes from cars and is designed to be both light and to block out external noises. This lets it block out much higher frequencies than most other headphones, and the actual software in the headphones that controls this is second to none. Here's the problem though. Going back to that adaptive noise canceling, this means that the headphones adjust the noise canceling according to the air pressure and the level of noise around you. The problem is that you'll very often hear them readjust, especially if you're on an airplane, and that just sounds like sudden wind noise and then it drops, sudden wind noise and then it drops. It's not terrible, but truth be told, while it is annoying, outside of planes, it hasn't really been all that bad. Moving on to the QuietComfort Ultra, if it runs second, then it is a very close second, and in some cases, it might actually be better, both during flights and in real-world scenarios, which is where I think these really shine. For example, if someone is watching TV and I need something quiet, the QuietComfort Ultra is what I reach for because I think it handles that kind of noise better. Think TVs, think people talking, think it being on a train. Note that some people in the comments have mentioned hearing a low-level hissing noise with the noise canceling on the QuietComfort Ultra, but I haven't heard that at all, at least nothing out of the ordinary. It's on par with the XM5 if anything, and it's something that I hear with pretty much every pair of noise canceling headphones, especially in a quieter environment. There are two downsides with the QuietComfort Ultra though. First is that there's no clear off mode with the noise canceling, whereas you can turn the noise canceling completely off with the XM5. In fact, it is super easy to cycle through the modes with the XM5. The second is back to that adaptive noise canceling. On planes, on liftoff specifically, you will hear a lot of static before it starts normalizing. It doesn't have that change of pressure thing going on, at least I didn't notice it, but on liftoffs and landing, it gets staticky, it gets loud. All in all, both are great, and it is very close, but I think that I have to give this one to the QuietComfort Ultra because its annoyances are slightly less annoying on planes, and I think it handles real-world scenarios slightly better. Alright, so it's time to compare sound, which I'll divide into two major areas, music and movies. A few technical notes. Starting with codecs, the XM5 uses SBC, AAC, and LDAC. A lot of devices, especially Android, can use LDAC, which is a great codec. Fantastic sound under good conditions. Apple users just get AAC, which isn't bad, but isn't great. The XM5 also uses Bluetooth 5.2. The QuietComfort Ultra, on the other hand, uses SBC, AAC, and aptX Adaptive. It also is set up to use newer codecs like Snapdragon Sound, which lets them handle lossless music over Wi-Fi, and the new aptX lossless format. Not many devices use this yet, but this means that these headphones will be able to handle some of the best wireless sound out there for some time to come. It also features Bluetooth 5.3. Additionally, both can multi-connect and pair with up to 8 devices, and this is easy to manage with both using their apps. Automatically switching between devices was pretty reliable on both. Bluetooth aside, both of these can connect to a device using the included audio jack cable, but the XM5 uses a 3.5mm cable, both powered on and off, meaning that you can use it when it's out of battery. The QuietComfort Ultra has to be powered on. When it comes to equalizers, the XM5 have a 6-band EQ, a number of adjustable presets, programmable preset slots, adjustable sound personalization that's done through an audio test, plus acoustic ear shape analysis. Remember what I said about having a ton of features? Again, there it is, coming to bear. The QuietComfort Ultra, on the other hand, has a 3-band EQ and 4 presets. That's it. Don't get me wrong. This is not a bad thing. Simple as good. On top of this, the QuietComfort Ultra lets you do spatial sound and head tracking, which I'll talk about in a bit. Now, for the rest of this, I'll compare the two headphones with their basic settings, although I will call out exceptions where necessary. First off, both are bass forward, meaning they emphasize the lower part of music. That's about where the similarities end. I'll start with the XM5, which I didn't find great, especially the default tuning. It lacks detail, it feels muddy at times. It can be fun, I guess, but it reminds me of the sound on the older Beats headphones where there's just a bunch of bloat in the low mids and the upper bass. It's better than that, but it's what it reminds me of. Mind you, it is a relaxing sound, and I can listen to it for a long time. It's just not satisfying, especially with acoustic instruments and voices. The timbre is not very good. Genres like folk and indie and classical and jazz aren't all that enjoyable with the XM5. You can fix a lot of this with the equalizer, and I made a whole video about that, but there's only so much that EQ can do. If you update the tuning, the XM5 definitely gets better. It can be a bit more clear and sound a bit more fresh, and the sound improves drastically when you use the LDAC codec, so if that's an option, things get way better. But even in that case, it always sounds very closed in. Moving on to the QuietComfort Ultra, there are a couple of stories here. The big new feature that Bose introduced with the QC Ultras was immersive audio. Basically, the QuietComfort Ultras do some software magic to make things sound more open and like they're coming from a specific direction outside of the headphones. You can turn this off if you want to, and I usually do. For music, I kept it off because it made the sound less warm and way more thin and artificial. Yes, it's more open, but it's also more grating. Cool at first, but the novelty wore off, at least with music. With immersive sound off, this might be the perfect consumer tuning for music, although it's not a tuning that I'm necessarily in love with. It's just too bass heavy for me. It's never muddy. It's never overt, at least for me. That said, detail, resolution, and resonance were what I'd come to expect out of Bose. Decent, but not spectacular. Much better than the XM5 though. The same goes with spaciousness and directionality. Even with immersive audio on, I found the sound to feel more on the intimate side, but it's still better than the XM5. Now, this isn't necessarily bad if you like the studio type of sound, which I think that most people do. The other thing is timbre. Voices and instruments sound more natural on the QuietComfort Ultra than the XM5. Now, what about movies? With the XM5, if you have access to the 360 reality audio features, then it's fantastic, especially with LDAC. The XM5 shine for movies and shows. Without this, I'm not in love. On the other hand, immersive audio makes movies pretty enjoyable on the QuietComfort Ultra, although I find that it thins out the sound a little bit too much for my taste. Still, you can use it with any device. So if you have an iPhone, if you have an Android phone, if you have a Windows machine, you can use it with all of these. So overall for sound, I'm gonna have to go with the Bose, both for music and movies. But if you're in the Sony ecosystem, then yeah, the XM5 all the way. For everyone else, the QuietComfort Ultra is gonna be better. Now, if you've watched this whole video and you're wondering who should buy what, for most people, the Bose QuietComfort Ultra is the better headphone, although the XM5 is not a bad choice at all. If you're a power user that likes a ton of features, then go with the XM5. Almost everyone else will get more out of the QuietComfort Ultra because it is better out of the box and it has a simpler app. So there you have it. If you want to find out more, click here or here if you want to watch the full deep dive on either of these, or click here to view the playlist with more comparisons. And be sure to subscribe if you want more content like this.